dos, tres, cuatro.
My name is Henry Biernacki, and I'm a traveler, global traveler, and I place myself outside of my comfort zone to learn. And I also write fiction novels, and I fly airplanes. All of this is coming together and tied together through when I began at 17 years old. I took a bus from Colorado Springs on I-25 south to Las Cruces, New Mexico, El Paso, Chihuahua City to Guadalajara, and took it alone, and then it began. I think that was my love of traveling, but I always knew when I was younger I'd go see the world. When I look at a map, I just wanted to see what was out there. When I heard languages, and in university I began, and my official title was Romance Languages, emphasis on French and Spanish with International Affairs. One thing I began thinking about, you think a different way once you begin speaking, because words in another language are going to shape your mind in a certain way. And just as a house has rooms, imagine a wall that never had a door, but all of a sudden something happened and a crack happens and there's a room beyond that wall, and you kick that wall down, there's now another room, and it adds to the square footage of the house, and you're able to move into that room and change the house completely. That's what happens to your mind when you're starting and beginning to speak another language. And you'll use words that you never use in your own language, and you begin using them in another language, and then you bring those back to your language, so to speak, in your mother tongue. And it starts to show you that the house no longer matters. You just kick down all the walls, and there's an open horizon of thoughts.
Sí, ¿cuántos días? Este es un original.
Sí.
Este es un día de trabajo.
Un día.
Sí, así es.
I used to import art from Mexico, Oaxaca, to the US, and so I had a certain amount saved up to pay back student loans. Then I had $3,700 to go traveling for, I didn't really know how long, so I went around the world sleeping in the streets for a year, and I spent $3,700. I just got a one-way ticket, I flew in, and I didn't touch an airplane from that point in Western Europe until I arrived in Hong Kong. Through Siberia, I arrived in Hong Kong for the handover from the British to the Chinese, and it just took off. I took off, not because anything dramatic happened. I just had a giant push internally to want to see more of the world than what I had seen. As I was traveling and sleeping on the streets, I had journals, and I was writing very small, so I didn't have to have too many journals around me. As you know, more things traveling is just a burden, and I always look at it, if you cannot sprint with it, do not carry it when you travel. I returned from sleeping on the streets, and I thought I had something to write about. What had happened, though, I was writing about myself, but during the time I started sleeping on the streets, I realized that people were my monuments, and they were more important to, I was learning from them about different parts of the world, and the book was focused on me, and I needed the books to focus on the world. Published my first novel in 2010, No More Heroes. I'd been writing literally since in the early 90s, and it just came out, and then got it published, and ran into somebody that was interested in I guess it was the way I spoke about the world, and it wasn't about me. He knew it was authentic, and it was about the world, and so he took basically by hand and kind of guided me on getting through to radio shows. And it wasn't so much because my book mattered. He realized the book was more important than the writer, and that's how I try to emphasize writing, is the title on the book must be what is important, not the writer and the name who wrote it. Because inside the book, it's about the world and not about me.